Hello and welcome back to the Stronghold. I'm the Magi and welcome to Midweek Magic, where I want you to grow your collection by winning 2 free rare or better ICRs each and every week. This week's Midweek Magic doesn't need to have you on edge, because with the Lost Caverns, Murders at Karlov Manor, as well as the brand new Outlaws of Thunder Junction available to use, there are tons of very accessible and budget-friendly deck options available. And we're going to touch on a bunch of those and then focus in on the one that I happen to think is the very best at the moment. But before we get into all of that, this whole Midweek Magic thing has become a bit of a tradition here at the Stronghold, and it all started with our crack team of researchers discovering that we were the only YouTube channel making consistent, proactive, and timely Midweek Magic coverage. And here we are years later, and it appears that we're still the only ones out there doing it for the budget community. So be sure to subscribe to the Planeswalker Stronghold so that we can be here for you every chance we get. Now, what were we talking about? Oh yeah, right. The sad fact is that if you just got started on Arena, your starter decks give you virtually nothing that will contribute towards this Midweek Magic, with the exception of 3 copies of Shock and 3 copies of Murder, and we'll touch on that a bit more in a moment. If we are looking purely at the additions that Outlaws of Thunder Junction made to Standard, I think it's pretty clear, established at this point, we've seen exactly how busted green-white mounts can be. It's very accessible because of the jump-in packets and the card selections that are made there. If you are very new to Arena, I think this is probably where you want to stay for this week's On the Edge. I wouldn't even be too terribly concerned about other sets. Maybe splash in some good removal from either the Lost Caverns or the Murder sets. But more and more, I would stick towards the mounts theme and just go with that. And while we're talking about Outlaws, the Rakdos Red-Black Outlaws Matter archetype has, well, kind of underperformed. The only builds that I've seen that really do well are ones that have multiple copies of Laughing Jasper. The more budget-friendly builds, the more accessible ones, just don't really seem to be getting it done. It's certainly underperforming within the limited environment. The archetype is just not shining the way we wanted it to. And on the flip side of that coin, the black-green Golgari deck has really outperformed. I think mostly because of cards like Honest Rutstein and Badlands Revival at Uncommon, really pulling this deck archetype up by its collar. I do think there is a good argument to be made here for upgrading the Insidious Roots deck. I think overall there are a ton of good plants and things like that, from Aloe Alchemist all the way up to Bristly Bill. Sadly, though, I don't think this On the Edge event is really the right place to be doing this, because there are some key cards from older sets that we do want to be utilizing in this upgraded version of the deck. And hey, let's not forget, the Is It Artifacts deck is a very well-established deck at this point that draws almost exclusively from the sets that we are focused on this week. Certainly not one to be slept on. And Outlaws certainly gave us a lot of powerful and interesting artifacts, particularly at higher rarities. Frankly, these cards deserve to be explored far more than I am going to be able to do this season. All right, so the deck that I think has the best balance between accessibility and, well, to coin a phrase, power, is the Gruul power deck. And while I don't really love the treasure payoff that's presented in Outlaws of Thunder Junction, I get it thematically, I just don't think it helps the deck all that much. The treasure incremental bits can certainly allow you to splash a third or more colors to put in some of those bombs that might be poking around in your collection that you just haven't really had a chance to play with yet. Overall, I think this deck has a huge amount of potential, and I think this is probably what we can expect to see from the Gruul deck from the starter collection for the 2025 budget year, starting in just a few months. Really what this comes down to is getting the right combinations on your 2, 3, and 4 drop creatures. Things like Bristleback Sentry, obviously love it when you have a powerful creature. Belligerent Yearling, it doesn't have that 4 power that matters so much by himself, but almost all of our late drops do, and that would pump up Belligerent Yearling as well. Gila Corsair, Skyclaw Raptor, Ornery Tumblewag can get Sentry as a 4/4 on his own. And of course, Jolene is all about the power and will also allow you to sacrifice some of those treasures to do incremental damage, either to a creature that just barely survived combat, or those finishing damage for your opponent themselves. At the top end, we've got 3 Giant Beavers and 3 Pathfinding Axejaws. Both 4 power in their own right and super accessible as just commons. Beyond that, we've got Trumpeting Carnosaur, which you can pick up from the jump-in packs. Earthshaker Dreadmaw can allow you to draw cards in the late game. And of course, a Nurturing Bristleback brings 8 power and toughness to the board for the bargain price of 7 mana. And has early game applications to Forest Cycle to allow you to make sure you're making those crucial drops. Now, beyond Trumpeting Carnosaurs on board 3 damage to target creature or planeswalker, we're running 2 copies of Shock and 1 copy of Abrade. Those allow you not only to remove creatures and or artifacts, but Shock can also directly target your opponent, again, to get those last little bits. Hard-hitting Question is in there as a fight bite style spell that cares about your number of creatures. Gold Rush also allows you to produce treasure, capitalizes on other treasure that you might already have, and of course it's a combat trick in its own right. Intrepid Paleontologist and Poison Dart Frog both in there for ramp. Paleontologist, of course, is available through the jump-in packets and functionally allows you to reuse some of your dinosaur spells, in particular like Trumpeting Carnosaur. If you use that early as removal, Paleontologist can then let you use it as an actual creature later on. Very solid stuff. Aloe Alchemist gives a nice trample surprise to a clogged board state. I like it a lot. Certainly test it out, see what you think. Otherwise, it doesn't directly fit a lot of the themes going on here, but a 3/2 is just 1 Tumblewag counter away from being relevant in that 4 or more power. And Quatli's Final Strike, that's the last piece of removal here. This, of course, being a bite spell, and will also pump up a creature to maybe produce some additional treasure for you. Kept the mana base pretty basic here, 21 total basics, leaning heavily towards forests. And then, of course, we've got a couple of the new common deal a point of damage deserts, and I've got 1 copy of Commercial District in here. You might have some other rare dual lands that fit the purpose as well. And hey, just in case you didn't catch all that, Matt would like you to know that the deck list that we discussed in this video is going to have a link down in the doobly-doo to take you over to Aetherhub, along with a link to any other alternative lists that you might wish to consider. He only asks that you give it a little thumbs up when you're over there checking out the deck list. And I plan on live playing this event on Wednesday at 11 a.m. over on my Twitch channel. So definitely stop in and check it out. Because the Stronghold is so much more than just a YouTube channel, and you can find links to all of our other social media outlets in our profile. Because at the end of the day, we're all budget players. And as a community, we're stronger together. So like, comment, subscribe, follow, do all those things to show a little love. It's appreciated more than you know.